is up or not, you still have a duty of care to look after it and to maintain it. I can't square off what was done a few years ago when all that scaffolding went up with a new building being put in front of that. I can't see how that access can work in practical terms. So that's my question. My technical question, if you like, is that of all the surveys that have been done, and I believe there's been one done either today or tomorrow, the amount of work that is emanating from these surveys is very, very little. And to give you an example, the survey that was conducted in 2005 put forward a number of recommendations, and to date none of those have been acted upon. And I've got a list of them here if you want me to read them out. But I'll just pick one out of an example. The portals numbers 1 to 7 in the 2005 report suggested that a horizontal beam of concrete at the base of the cliff, which weighs a considerable tonnage, was being displaced horizontally. When the report looked at the same site in 2012, suddenly those displacements did not occur. So unless the fairies came out during the night at Ramsgate and shoved it back in, it should still be displaced, but it's not there. Or possibly. So that's just one example. So I'm not actually criticising anybody, but what I'm saying is that yes, again, we find reports that are coming out as one particular year, a few years later they seem to differ, and there's no explanation in between. So forgive me if I've missed something. Councillor Everett can tell me that the work has been done to mitigate that particular major issue, but I'm not sure that he can, but I would welcome the discussion with it. So can you confirm that you are satisfied that with the ongoing maintenance that is going to be required on that cliff facade, and presumably at some point in the future the cliff behind it, you are satisfied that access will be achievable with whatever, if anything, is built on that site?
Well, it won't surprise Councillor Bruce that I'm not a technical expert on the state of the cliff. Neither am I an expert in what was discovered in 2005. Having been elected to the council in 2011, clearly I wasn't studying the reports at that stage. You'll also be aware we are carrying out a full survey of the cliff wall, and we have committed to publishing the outcome of that investigation. These are important matters, and I don't seek to minimise them. We've referenced them in the recommendation. We are aware that things could come out of that survey which would change the situation, and if they do, then that will be reported back. I'm not sure what else I can say in terms of whether the access is enough. Really, that's part of the planning consent. I mean, that is something which should have been taken into account by the planning committee at the time that it passed the scheme. Again, I wasn't here.
Thank you very much, and obviously we value your personal expertise in these questions, and I think with the work that's going to be done in the coming days, maybe Councillor Everett and officers can have another chat with you. That'll be useful. Councillor Wells, I think you're a late comer to this, but I've got you on my list. Thank you.
Oh, I think I've been around this a while, Madam Chair. When I last spoke on this, from another place, I would have to say, when I last spoke on this, I did say how difficult this is as an issue because everybody seems to play into their own particular version of history. So I'm going to actually try and avoid that, believe it or not. But to pick up things that are in this report that I think are only partially truthful, that worry me. And I'm going to start with corporate paragraph 9.3, really. Position has changed materially since the Cabinet decision was taken in February. Well, yes and no. Yes, it's changed because the Council has stopped pursuing the breach and started instead to pursue an alternative agreement to get the building on the ground. So, yes, it has changed materially, but the failure of SFP Ventures over a long period of time to actually undertake their duties under the agreement seem to have been laid to one side once more, and that I think should concern us all. And 9.3.2, frankly, Councillor Everett, it says there, we're trying to make a decision based upon all of the options. This report doesn't contain all of the options by any means. And, it's all very well for you to criticise others for saying, well, all these options, what are they, or whatever. There are other options. Those other options we talked about last time, which is about pursuing the twin track to make sure the pressure stayed on the people we've negotiated with, something you have decided not to do. Go back to number 7, cliff wall and flood risk concerns. In 2008, the last time any substantial work was done on the cliff wall, the cost was £900,000. In 2012, the last survey that was undertaken, none of the recommendations contained in that survey have been undertaken since. There is already a huge backlog from the 2012 survey. And the 2014 survey, and pardon me, I'm not an expert, 2014 survey I think is scheduled to take place in a couple of days. That suggests to me it is, by the time they've walked up and down and looked at things or whatever, it's certainly a totally non-intrusive survey. And the key difficulty with the cliff is, as Councillor Bruce said, what lies beneath. We need to, at some point, before this building comes out of the ground in whatever form it is going to do so, to get behind those facades and look and see what's happening with the chalk behind them, because that was the expensive bit in 2008. If it's happened in 2008, the odds are it will have happened again by 2014. Paragraph 8.1, conclusion. We are bound by legal contract to take all reasonable steps to get the scheme built out. Pardon me? Aren't SFP Ventures bound by legal contract to have taken all reasonable steps to build the damn thing before now? Yes. And isn't that why we served a breach notice? And why, once again, have we walked away from it? Yes. The last time I spoke on this subject, I had considerable esoteric debate with at least 2 of the officers about use and terms. I see those terms haven't been tidied up. 8.2, SFP Ventures has spent considerable money. Well, it claims to have. I'm not sure it's been properly quantified. 8.3, this value is significant. What the piggy hell does that mean? Right? 9.12, the council will result in a substantial capital receipt. Well, the last figure I saw of that was somewhere like about 3.3 million. Maybe we'll get 4. That'll do us 20 years worth of cliff face repairs compared to 100 years of giving the thing away. I'm not sure that's best value, 91.3, which I thought we'd eschewed and got rid of. Right in the middle there, best value. And back to 10.2. It is recommended that if further information becomes available during these negotiations, there being a significant negative effect. Again, a wonderful weasel word that allows anybody to do anything with it, for the consideration owed. As Councillor Gideon said a little earlier on this evening, best consideration includes social and environmental value as well as cash, something that this Cabinet appears to have put in the bin. Presumably a non-recyclable one. At the end of the day, what we have, it appears to most people looking in from the outside, is an attempt, as I said before, to actually cover the council's embarrassment whilst putting the wishes and feelings of the people of Ramsgate to one side. I repeat what I said a few weeks ago. This council, I believe, is putting itself in a very dangerous position where the gap between what residents want to be done and what this council and this cabinet are deciding to do is so great that there will be no confidence left in what the council can do, let alone any consideration at all.
Absolutely true. I don't like to agree with you, Kip, but he's right.
Can I say thank you, Councillor Wells. I think it's disappointing that you weren't at the meeting yesterday. And actually, it is disappointing because it is disappointing because it was useful, and we were able to go in as cabinet, some 4 of us, and to hear some of the questions and answers from all political sides, and I think it would have helped you with that. I think I had a couple of speakers, Councillor Harrison, and then Councillor Everett, and then Councillor Green. No, you're okay. Right, thank you.
I've said it many times and I'll repeat it again. Being in opposition is easy because you can say anything, you can make wild promises, you can say what you like, the world is your oyster, because you don't have the responsibility for doing it and delivering it. And that is the difference between being in control and being in opposition. And you know, if you're going to be honest and truthful, you know what it's like being in control. You have to make difficult decisions that sometimes don't necessarily go along with the pressure you're under to make a different decision. And Councillor Everett's quite right. It is a legacy issue. It is a legacy from things that you did in 2003 It is a legacy of things that you did in 2006, and it's a legacy of agreements you made in 2009, and that is what we're trying to sort out and put right tonight by going through this process. I'll repeat it again. Opposition is easy. You can make whatever wild promises you like because you don't have to deliver them.
You'll be enjoying it next year, won't you?
Thank you. Councillor Everett, and I don't know if we need Mrs Crowley to come in, but Councillor Everett, please could we listen to everybody politely? We're trying to actually, this is a serious matter going on a very long time, and I think speed is of the essence and we need to get it right. Thank you.
Speed is not of the essence.
Due diligence is.
Well, I agree that speed is of the essence.
No.
And I think there are plenty of people in Ramsgate who are sick and tired of this matter and want it
Yeah,
resolved.
we are there. They'll be sick and tired of this big wrong thing as well, won't they?
Right.
Sorry.
Can I let me say to Councillor Wells, he made various complaints about things not being quantified in this report, considerable sums of money, etc. He knows very well that the reason they're not quantified is to enable this report to be taken in open session and not be put on pink. So to then criticise us for not giving the exact figures on public papers, you know, to me it's just cynical, and I don't take it seriously, I'm afraid. It's been said that the council is no longer pursuing the option to terminate the agreement. Well, members who were at the meeting yesterday, unlike Councillor Wells, will know that this question was asked, and it's quite clear that the breach notice is extant. It continues to exist, and if we don't enter into a new arrangement, we will be pursuing it. So we are pursuing both courses. In terms of the various options, yes, there are other options and we know what they are. One of them is to pursue the legal process. Well, that's the option that we've been considering, that's the option that we were going down, and the reason that we're not doing it is because an alternative path has appeared which doesn't contain the same risks to the council and the same risks to Ramsgate of a continued standstill of that site for a further period of years, ending in exactly the same development.
Oh, it does include this.
So that's an option. The other option, let's be frank about it, is for this council to buy out SFP Ventures, to give millions of pounds to the people who, so many of the people who are opposed to Pleasure Armour, are totally opposed to. Is that seriously something which this council should be pursuing? Because I don't think it is. And I'm bloody sure that the council can't afford to do it either.
What, buy and sell?
No, there was one thing, one point I wanted to make. I mean, I think it was Councillor Bayford who raised the spurious point about properties still being empty after 11 years. What kind of a developer would want to take on such a scheme with the prospect of flats not being let for 11 years? It would make no commercial sense at all.
They've done it exactly what they've done because they're not developers, they're land bankers.
Same as in Peterborough.
Excuse me. I'm
Sorry,
very
Alice.
sorry. I know how strongly you feel about this. You're one of the few people who's been around as long as we have.
14 years,
That's right.
Iris.
That's right. So I'm sorry I have to stand up. I really don't want to upset you. I know how strongly you feel. But I was in Ramsgate today, and all I was getting is, for God's sake, get on with it.
Get it right.
Yes.
Get on with it and get it right.
So I'm not going to talk across the room. I have been asked if I should ask you to leave. I don't do that. I'm going to move on. We've had a mover and a seconder, and if you'd like to finish, thank you.
Yeah, there's one. I didn't really make one point which Mrs. Crowley reminded me of, and I would like to pay tribute to the work that Mrs. Crowley and the project team have done, because that's getting lost in this furore, and they've worked tremendously hard. There is a laser survey of the cliff, and I think this is intended to find out what is going on with the chalk. I'm not a technical expert. I don't know what that means, but I know that we are looking at the chalk as well as the surface. It's not a superficial survey. The other thing is, I promised Councillor Bayford that I would offer him something, and so I will offer you some comfort, Councillor Bayford. And what I'm saying, and I'm not proposing to make it part of the decision, is that before any deal is signed, the relevant Conservative spokesperson, which is currently Councillor Binks, but it could be Councillor Bayford himself if he wants, should have an opportunity to be briefed on the detail of the due diligence and the detail of the agreement, so that the opposition can have confidence about what the deal is and that it is within the parameters which have been set out publicly.
Thank you very much. Councillor Binks, you've heard that offer. I'm sure you would accept it. We always welcome your contributions. Okay? Office, okay.
Thank you for that. It looks like I've drawn the short straw. Okay, thanks.
Right, we had a mover and a seconder. We had the recommendations as outlined on page 6. Can I just have a vote from colleagues, please? Thank you very much. And I really do want to say thank you to the officers for the work you've been doing, Edwina in particular, but some of our newer faces around the table, and particularly Mrs. Homer for the work we have to do in here. And I have to say it is often a 12-hour day for many of us. Thank you. Thank you, members of the public, and thank you, members of the press and others.